Hi, hello, and welcome to LX2 Codependency Coaching Podcast. I am Stella. We are recording on a beautiful Thursday morning, and this week has been a lot of things. I was thinking about this idea of the line of demarcation, right? I'm going to read to you just a Google search. A real or imaginary line that separates two places, parts of something, or ideas. And what had me thinking about the line of demarcation is really recognizing that there are things that happen throughout a life. And once something happens that is significant, there is a before and there is an after. And a few months ago, could have been last year, I wrote and I spoke on the space between, right? The knowing and not knowing that creates resilience. And so really thinking that that's how we learn how to do things, to get through things, to get over things, to move past really challenging and difficult things, or really positive, awesome things. But there is that line of demarcation, that space where you didn't know something and then you knew it. And there's no undoing it. There's no going back. There's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. It is out and now you are different. And it's interesting, right? For a long time, so I've been practicing now for 14 years, a long time. And I haven't done it in a while, but I would use a tool of having someone create the narrative of their timeline, kind of from their first memory, and indicating either big decisions or pivotal moments that kind of shaped their worldview, that shaped how they felt about themselves, how they felt about their relationships and dynamics. And so those pivotal moments are that line of demarcation between the before and the after. And so it had me thinking about that tool and human beings and resilience, and really considering how challenging it is once something significant happens, creating that line of two distinct parts, right? The before, I knew that that was a thing, and the after, or before I had this experience and the after. And I was thinking about how obviously, I am so grateful to be witness and bear witness to people's resilience and their ability to get through and past significant things, or to learn new skills and abilities to be able to integrate, new parts into their life. Recently, something happened in my family, and I'm not here to share that, but to talk about this idea that once something happens that is significant, right? Positive, negative, tragic, brilliant, beautiful, amazing. Once that thing happens, you are forever changed. And there has to be a conversation. There has to be several conversations, right? There has to be an opportunity to sit and let your brain process. I have said many times this week, it's just so hard for my brain to wrap around it. And I can only imagine, with all the people that are dealing with this thing, how difficult it is to integrate this new information into their experience, right? And as I work with humans who go through lots of different things, I think about how, as we do the timeline exercise, really looking at who you were before this significant thing happened and who you were after. A lot of times people in relationship will talk about how they cannot remember who they were before this person came into their life in whatever facet or function or season that they were, they experienced this relationship, this dynamic, whatever it was, right? And I speak about the kind of the pendulum or the poles of positive and negative. And sometimes they can be neutral experiences, but sometimes they can be kind of standouts. And it's not until you speak to another person, either in a therapeutic relationship or just in another capacity, where you start to recognize, oh, I didn't realize that there was this pivotal thing that happened. Somebody said something to me or did something, and I am forever changed, right? I like to go to talks and, listen to speakers and meet authors and those kinds of things. And to sit and bear witness to someone's story can change a person, right? To be able to go to a educational experience and hear something for the first time, and it changes your lens or the way that you see the world. And also those experiences, right? I think often people will focus on the traumatic experience, a car accident or, something that significantly changed their worldview or gave them, a different perspective. Often anxiety can come from, not knowing something exists and then knowing that it does. There's a woman on Instagram who rates animals, and she has a lot of strong opinions, which I love. She's actually very funny, but she talks about like sea creatures and birds and, just cute baby animals and all the things. And so, she looks at all these different animals and then, obviously does Instagram posts about them. And so once you know that something exists, like it's pretty interesting. There was an animal on Instagram, and Luna and I were looking at it, and it I can't remember what it was, but it was some kind of small furry creature, and she's like, it's a puppy cat, or no, she said it's a puppy rabbit. Obviously it was like on 4 legs, it kind of stood up, had a rabbit face, kind of rabbit ears, but it looked like a puppy. Anyway, now I know that animal exists. Can't remember what it is, but know that it exists, and I'm like, okay, like forever I will know that's a thing. Baby animals I love. Hippos, rhinos, elephants are adorable. But now that you know that they exist, like it almost makes the world better, right? Same is true with baby humans, obviously. It's interesting to think about when you consider those situations. Obviously, baby animals, very cute, very awesome. But, the things that happen in a lifetime that change our perspective can be, like I said, awe-inspiring experiences. To go to the top of, a mountain or the Parthenon or, the Acropolis, being able to see the Colosseum in Rome, to being able to see, the ocean for the first time. Those experiences leave a mark. They change us, right? And so there is that line of demarcation, changing the course of what happens in a situation or a life, right? I bear witness to lots of those things that are hard and difficult, where people have experiences, either chosen or not, that change their lens and perspective. And it's very difficult then to get back to a place where you didn't know that was real, where you didn't know that was a thing, where you didn't have that experience and you can't remember who you were before that. And I speak of time often, obviously, past, present, future, the last episode, really looking at how we integrate those experiences into our path or process. I recently recommended the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and thinking about that book was written, about his experiences in a concentration camp in Germany or Austria, one or the other, and how he was able to find and seek and witness people making meaning of their life, even in this very difficult and tragic and terrible environment. Humans are incredibly resilient and capable of getting through certain things. We love movies, where there's an underdog and people, overcome and get triumph over a challenging situation. And it's curious to me how humans do that, right? If you were to look at your own life experience and recognize those lines of demarcation where you were either at a crossroads or something happened. And like I said, it doesn't always have to be tragic or terrible. It can be, awe-inspiring, amazing. You turn a corner and you see something that you'd never seen before, or you meet someone who changes your life in a positive way. I speak often about, people who had really positive adults, if their family wasn't the most positive or supportive, who had safe adults like teachers, or in my case, a librarian who saw me and was wonderful, who recommended books that I enjoyed and that added to my experience, right? And so recognizing those people in that line of demarcation change who you are and change your path, right? Add to your experience in a positive way. It's really easy to focus on those negative things that happen. Could be a chronic health condition, or it could be the loss of someone. It could be a breakup, or people move. I have spoken to lots of people who grew up in military families who moved from place to place, and they built resilience in being the new kid often. But it does change how you see the world. And it's curious to me, right? Because those things impact our personality. They impact our worldview. They impact how we then interact with new situations or similar situations, or maybe we avoid situations because of those, circumstances that have happened. Oftentimes when people choose change or choose, different experiences, they have an expectation in their mind of what that's going to look like. And oftentimes with expectation comes disappointment. And so I often speak to people about how do we change the expectation or limit the expectation to be able to be open to positive things. I have a client who talks about how she's working on having chill vibes, which I love when she says that, because working with this client for a long time, chill vibes was not part of who she was when we first started working together. And now, with different experiences, she's been able to find that chill vibes, no expectations, really moving in a way that is more responsive to the environment than coming in, guns blazing, full personality, fire hosing people. We often have met people in our experience who will fire hose you with their entire personality. And it can be a lot, right? It can be jarring. It can be difficult for us to then kind of recognize, like, what is happening in my body right now? I'm feeling overwhelmed, right? You may have not been someone who had anxiety growing up or did not recognize that that's what it was. And it's not until you sit and talk with someone else who names it for you, that is that line of demarcation to recognize, oh, the water and the ice is happening. But when that thing happens, right? Something, you speak to someone, they name it for you, and then you recognize, oh, that's me. I am an anxious human, right? I have social anxiety. I just thought, I got sick before I made a presentation. But no, it turns out that I have social anxiety. And so how have I been able to cope with it in the past? And how can I cope with it maybe in a different way moving forward? A lot of times when we are exposed to certain things, we go in with limited expectation or not really understanding what something is going to be. And then we have that experience and then we're like, oh, I never want to do that again. Or I want to see what that's like. I want to have more of those experiences, talking about maybe you're not a nature person. Maybe you don't like, or you haven't had the experience of going camping or going on a hike or, spending a lot of time in nature. And so once you have that experience and it's positive, you want to do more of that, right? You want to know what life can be like with these options or opportunities, right? I think about how humans in general struggle with change, right? A lot of times we kind of like it the way that it is, like, or we're just used to the way that it is. And so we don't want things to be different. And so when a new element is introduced, either a new person, a new experience, I have a really good friend whose mom struggles with eating new and different food. And so they travel. But this woman is always looking for the chicken dish because it just makes her feel comfortable, which I get. Like, I do understand that there are certain things. I am very particular when it comes to my coffee. And so I don't go out to get coffee very often because I like the way that I make it. But I recognize that for some humans, having that element of change is an exhaustive and anxiety producing experience. And so being able to recognize, where did that come from? Where was there a line of demarcation before you knew that the world was strange or different, before you knew that the world was maybe a little bit less safe than you thought it was, or dangerous, right? When did you recognize that? While we were in Mexico, my son-in-law, who is a Gemini and has to like have the world prove to him, which I love about him, he was like, I don't think there are as many bugs as you guys are talking about. I just haven't seen them. Like, it's not a thing. And both his wife and I were like, no, there are bugs and they are big. And he was like, I haven't seen them, so I don't think that's real. And then he did. My daughter was like, sir, can you come and look at this giant spider? And he was like, oh my God. Right. And I had seen a few millipedes and he was like, I don't think that's real. And then he saw one and he was like, okay, I get it. Like, for him, proof is very important, which, okay. But there are people that are like that, right? That are like, I don't think that's real. And then it happens either to you or to someone you know, or, you know, you see it in a way and then you're like, oh, that's real, right? And so really recognizing what that line of demarcation is for you and where it has influenced how you do life, how you see things. Once you know, right, that something is a thing, you can't not know it. You can't go back and be like, I wish I never knew that. I speak often with a friend of mine and we talk about how it sometimes feels like it would be more comfortable to live in that ignorance is bliss place, to see the world from fresh eyes and recognize that, like, all of this is new and it's good, right? Once you know the things that are terrible, challenging, difficult, hard, unfortunate, ugly, and disgusting, you can't not know them. And it makes things difficult then to find the good, right? To find the things that are beautiful. Things in nature or things in people, the way you're like, oh, people are good for the most part, right? People do kind things for the most part. It's really difficult, again, right now in social media to see that because we're bombarded with news of challenging things or people saying unhelpful stuff, or behaving in ways that are all of those negative things. It's really difficult to see that the world is also a combination of lots of things. It's not just one thing, right? So you have to be able to seek it out, or with intention, start to look for the things that are positive, the things that give you comfort, the things that make you feel okay, or at least grounded in those present moments where you can be like, okay, there are all these negative things, but there are also positive things, right? There are beautiful things. The ignorance is bliss friend, is an amazing photographer, and one of my favorite subject matters that they take pictures of is nature, right? Just in the garden, bumblebees, butterflies, just those kinds of things. And that brings me comfort, knowing that there is still beauty in nature, in the most random of places. And I'm okay with that. Like that brings me back to being okay with being grounded in the present and looking towards the future of what can happen after whatever tragic thing is part of your experience, or whatever beautiful thing, right? People have lots of positive things that are happening, starting new jobs, meeting new people, having relationships, right? Having those experiences of getting to know someone new that is a beautiful opportunity to change the way that you see the world, and then recognize my life is different now, right? I have had this experience with this person. My accountability buddy and I were friends, kind of, in graduate school. We had classes together. We didn't spend a lot of time talking. And then something changed, and we did. And then we ended up, world traveling together and having lots and lots of conversations, and really recognizing that, like, our worldview was very similar and very different. And we were able to have really good conversations. And I'm different because of it, right? Another friend met in high school, and we're not really like super close in high school, but over the last few years, we have gotten closer and had lots of conversations. And again, I'm changed because of those experiences. And so recognizing that there are these moments in our life that change us for the positive or the negative, for the good or for the worse, and then we have to get through it, and then we are different. It's not necessarily the worst thing, though in the moment it can feel that way. It's hard to see, further down the road, down the path, if you will, of what happens next. When something really significant happens, it's hard to know, how do I move forward, right? I often will talk to people about just taking the next step, whatever that is. Get through this moment. You don't have to see the whole path in front of you to know who you are or why you're different. You just have to get through this moment. And sometimes it's moment by moment. Sometimes it's day by day. And then before you know it, you will have stepped onto a significant path. For those of us who are witness to or supportive of people going through really challenging and difficult things, it's helpful to light the path for them, right? It's helpful just to be present and take those steps into whatever that future looks like, even if it's scary and we don't know, right? I'm so grateful that people are in each other's lives to be able to hold space for those tragic and difficult things that happen, where we can all just kind of sit together and be sad and feel overwhelmed and feel scared and worried about the future. And as long as there's one person who can sit next to you and say, this is tough, let's just sit here and see how we can plan the next moment, right? That's a gift. That is a blessing, to be able to have someone who can bear witness to this line in the sand of before and after. So, if you know someone who is going through something difficult or challenging that has changed their experience, be it a phone call, a diagnosis, a breakup, a job loss, a new job, something scary, right? These children are, having promotion ceremonies, going from middle school to high school or elementary school to middle school. They don't know what that's going to look like, right? There is that very significant ceremonial line of demarcation of before and after. And so being able to congratulate and celebrate them, people who are graduating from college or high school, it's so interesting when I am sitting with someone who just graduated and they did all this really hard work, and then they're like, I don't know what to do next. Like, I know what's expected, but I'm just trying to figure out who I am. My life as a student is changed, right? People who retire, my life as an employee or a worker has changed. And so being able to bear witness to that, to acknowledge the line, and to also light the path for the next step, whatever that is, moment to moment. To anyone who's going through those challenging things, know that I see you. And I recognize that this moment is hard, and the next few might be hard, and then you will get through it. I have seen so many people get past things they never thought they could and became a next version of them So there's your nugget. I will be traveling again next week, but you should have a podcast. We'll see what happens. Thank you to everyone who's listening. So many different countries lately. It's been kind of awesome. Singapore and Brazil and Spain and yeah, just all kinds of different places. Thank you to everyone in the United States who's listening and all over the world. I'm so grateful. If you need to get a hold of me, it's lx2.cod.coach@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, though I don't have access to my Facebook, so good luck there. Anyway, I hope you're all getting through whatever this line is that you are dealing with. And I will see you next time. Take care.